Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Same here in Udupi. Udupi is the place where he came. In Shankaracharya, which we're going to visit, is a place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went. And then north of here, some other places Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went. They're listed. And he's at the center. Krishna's at the center for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Krishna's at the center, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is at the center. We'll be speaking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his participation in all of this, visit to Udupi, etc. I'm waiting for the electricity to go out. We're in India, anything can happen. If anything can happen, it will. So, taking shelter of and hearing about and things in relation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is one of the reasons. Now, when related is when we were going in that southerly direction and coming back up, we heard a lot about Ramanujacharya and Sri Rangam and the associates of Ramanujacharya and the disciplic line, and we heard so many nice things. Some of that is going to continue in this yatra because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited some places that were in this area, also headquarters for Sri Vaishnavism. So we'll hear something further, but our main focus is going to be, as you see on the screen, Madhvacharya, because this place where we are, Udupi, was, one could say, his headquarters, or the place where he spent most time. He went and came back and went and came back and went and came back, but this was his place. And so his life, his places, his teachings, we'll spend some time about his teachings. And the mood at that time, the challenge that he met strongly. Lots of mysteries about him and his associates, so we'll be hearing a lot about him and his associates. And one nice thing, another reason why we're here, because that's the starting point. Why are we here? it's more pleasing to Krishna for us to glorify his devotees and hear about the details. Of course, Mahatsevam Dwar Mahor Vimuktes, when we can, the Dwaram, the doorway, the gateway into the spiritual realm is the devotees, because the devotees are going to take you to the personality of God. And in other words, we're here because we'll be hearing about that which is pleasing to the personality of God, and more than just hearing about him, it's hearing about his devotees. So you'll be hearing and hearing and hearing. And some of you may get tired. I'm chuckling. One of the symptoms of this age through technology, etc., is distraction. There's abundant resources to ensure that you'll be distracted, and sure enough, just like when, we'll be hearing, when Udupi was forming, it was just a forest. And look at this place. I don't know how you feel, but this is how I feel. I've been so immersed in hearing about the pastimes of Madhvacharya and what happened before him, etc. When I came down the street from the airport, seeing all the billboards and all the girls on the billboards and jewelry and signs and this and that, and what happened? Kali Yuga happened. That's what happened. And it's really effortlessly easy to be distracted. For example, put your hand in your bead bag and start chanting and see what happens. What to speak of everything else. So this is an opportunity. One of our reasons for being here is to have an opportunity where busy people focus through sound and sight, but sound and worship of deities. We'll be seeing a number of very important deities, very merciful deities, very mystical deities. But through sound, it may take a while to detox from all the distractions, because even when you're sitting there, you're probably getting some number of text messages from people somewhere saying something, wanting something. I made a parking lot called the After Udupi parking lot, after the yatra parking lot. And I got a lot of stuff over there, and I don't even look over there, I'll deal with it when the yatra's over. So my request of all of you, you've come a long distance, thank you for being here. Be focused, stay focused, and maximize the assimilation of sound vibration, although it's a lot. So your bhakti muscle is going to get exercised a bunch. And if not, you just be distracted. You pick up your phone, you want to check out your text messages and everything else that's going on phones these days, or whatever else is going on. Stay focused. It's an opportunity it's a very important opportunity, a rare opportunity to be together like this. Sarva Siddhi Hoy. All spiritual perfection from experiences like this, qualitative, of course, to how attentive we are. So that's some encouragement for attentiveness through the home stretch. And there's a lot. There's lots of stories, and there's lots of information, and there's lots of names that you're not accustomed to hearing, and your mind's going to spin. I promise you, your mind is going to spin. So keep notes, and if your mind starts spinning, don't worry about it, because the sound vibration is purifying, and you can, the person should help put all this material together, and yours truly would trying my best to present it in a meaningful way. A lot of this is new to me also. It's not something I'm very familiar with. There are some things I'm very familiar with. But don't worry, the sound vibration is the important part. And hear it, assimilate it, it's all being recorded, and you can go back later and examine and hear. So a little bit about now this first slide, history of Udupi and an introduction to Madhvacharya. So Udupi is a little place. It's in a section of Karnataka that's north of Kerala and due east of Goa, and this whole section has some interesting history. Each of those little colors, it's showing an urban area or a section of Kerala. Karnataka. Excuse me, Karnataka. So there's some names for this area. One of those names for this area is Malabar. Here we go with some new names. Some of you are familiar, most of us are not. Malabar. It's the southwest coast of India. And there's a big mountain range that runs north and south. Big mountain range called the Western Ghats. And then on the far western side is the Arabian Sea. And in between the Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea is where we are. This Karnataka state. It's historically goes by the name Malabar. It also goes by the name Parashram Kshetra. Parashram Kshetra, the history behind it being called Parashram Kshetra. We'll hear this about 4 times during the course of our time together. But Parashram, after he finishing the Kshatriyas 21 times, he gave away all the land, there's history we'll hear, and he wanted to retire. But since he had given everything away in a sacrifice, Kashyapa Muni said, I'm sorry, there's no place for you here. You're going to have to find another place. But he gave away the whole world. And so he came to this area, and he had a little discussion with Samudra, ocean personified, saying, I want a place to stay. And they negotiated an arrangement. The arrangement was his parashu, or his axe, he would throw it, and as far as he would throw it into the sea, that much of the land would be recovered from the sea. We'll hear some more because tomorrow we're going to go to a place where there's a nice temple. We'll hear some more about this detail, in detail, but it's a nice detail. So he threw his battle axe, and it soared through the air, and where it landed, the sea receded, and it now became the Malabar region, or Parashram Kshetra. So those are 2 names for this large tract of land. And in this large tract of land, historically, 2 very important acharyas made their appearance. One, of course, is Shankaracharya. This is a nice painting showing his 4 principal sannyas disciples. and Madhvacharya, his staunch opponent. They came one after the other, and they had their particular mission, and they fulfilled their mission. So we're going to be visiting, in addition to Udupi, the Shankaracharya, one of the principal places of Shankaracharya, which is in this geographic area. The etymology of this word Udupi, what is called today, wasn't always called Udupi. There's a Tulu language. You're going to hear something about what's the Tulu language. That has its history. But in the Tulu language, it's Odipu. And Odipu is derived from another word that's a place. Oda Bandeshwara. Oda Bandeshwara is a place where Madhvacharya received his three deities, or three of his deities. Oda Bandeshwara, then it carried over to Odipu, that then became Udupi. The three deities, Krishna deity, Balaram deity, and Janardhan deity. Well, we had our plan to go to all three places, and one of them we're not going to go to because the place is under renovation. But that's the Balaram deity place. The schedule got a little shaken up and we're not going there. But those three deities were received personally by Madhvacharya, and we'll hear the story in a couple of days of how he received those deities. But he's carrying the deity. In one of Krishna's hands is a churning rod, another one of Krishna's hands is a rope. It's a childhood Leela, and we'll hear a little bit about the pastime, particularly when we go to see the Janardhan deity. So the place where the Balaram deity was installed was in that very Oda Bandeshwara place, what it's known by in the native language. Here's the three deities. One deity is right here in Udupi, the Krishna deity, which we'll see in a couple of days. The Balaram deity we'll not see, but it's at Vada Bandeshwara. There's a photograph of the Balaram deity and the Janardhana deity. We'll visit that place Sunday morning. Yes? The schedule's adjusted a little bit. We're going to see this third deity on the right side Sunday morning. Not far away. So here's the third deity. There's the Krishna deity. There's a map of India showing where Karnataka is and where Udupi is within Karnataka, etc. And there's a nice photograph of the deity. I like maps because I'd like to know, like besides just getting in a car and going somewhere, where am I? So that's why the maps are here. We're also going to Malpe. We were going to go to Malpe. And that's where the deity of Balaram is. 7 kilometers northwest of Udupi. And then the Janardhan deity we'll go to visit on Sunday, 20 kilometers south. So more about the name Udupi. In Sanskrit, Uda means stars, and Pa means the Lord. So Uda Pa means the Lord of the stars. So who is the Lord of the stars? Who is the Lord of the stars? The moon. And according to Mahabharata, Daksha gave his 27 daughters in marriage to the moon god, Chandra. And these 27 stars are the 27 nakshatras, or constellations, or sometimes called asterisms. So, those are the 27 daughters of Daksha. However, the moon, Chandra, or Udupi, became too much charmed by his favorite queen, one of the 27. Her name was Rohini. And that was fine with Rohini, except the other 26. They weren't fine with that. They were feeling neglected. So they went to their father, Daksha, please do something. Our husband is not paying any attention. He's fascinated with Rohini. Daksha became a little angry. And he cursed the moon that he would slowly diminish in time into complete oblivion. And as he was experiencing the effect of Daksha's curse, the sun god Chandra went to a certain place, modern Udupi, a place called Abjaranya. Anya means forest, so Abjaranya. This whole place was once a forest. Now it's something else. It's a Kali Yuga jungle, sorry to say. But it was once a nice forest. And in the forest, near a lake called Chandra Pushkarni, he started doing severe penances to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva became pleased with Chandra and asked him what he would want. And Shiva appeared in the form of a Spatika linga to ward off the evil effects of Daksha's curse on the moon. And from then on, instead of totally diminishing slowly into oblivion, the moon began to wax and wane fortnightly, back and forth, thanks to Lord Shiva, relieving Chandra of the curse of Daksha to some degree. Therefore, one of Lord Shiva's names is Udupi Natha, or Chandrashvara. We'll see some deities of Lord Shiva that have that name, and that's where the name comes from. The Chandra Muleshwara temple in Udupi celebrates this pastime of Chandra. We'll see the temple and the deity. Now, over a course of time, Udupi, previously Odipu in the native language, had some additional names. One of those additional names is Rajata, Pitta, Pura. You have to pay attention to all of this because we're going to be hearing more and more about each of these things. So this is kind of a ground level before we build the house. So Rajata means silver. Pitta can mean different things. It can mean an altar. And Pura is a city. So this is another name of Udupi. So it means the city of silver, the city of the silver altar. That's this place, the city of the silver altar. How to get that name? Well, there's an ancient silver pedestal or altar or surface upon which there's a deity of an Anteshwara linga. How did this happen? On top of that silver pedestal, or altar, there's the deity of Ananteshwara. Very, very important. You're going to hear his name many times. Very important. But this is the history of how the name came and how the place got its name. In fact, in this place, this is a term you're going to hear 16 times. Shivali. Shivali is a Kannada term where Shiva is Lord Shiva, and Veli means silver. Silver is the place where there's a silver altar or silver platform. And on top of the silver platform is this deity of Ananteshwara. So you're going to see this deity in different photographs many times because he's a very important personality in Udupi. In fact, long, long ago, before it was, the way things look today, this Shivali community was presided over by Shivali brahmanas, not presided over, but their influence was with the Ananteshwara deity at the center of their community, the Brahmana community. So how did this silver pedestal or altar come into being? That's a nice question. Long, long ago, there was a celebrated king. This is the history. Ram Bhoja was the king's name. And he ruled over this entire, it's a big area. He had a big kingdom. The Parashuram Kshetra area. And he was so successful and so pious, he wanted to expand his kingdom. The brahmanas, the Shivali brahmanas advised him to want to expand your kingdom, perform an Ashwamedha yajna. And they even picked a place where the yajna should be performed. And it was on the western side of the Chandra Maleshwara temple. There's a photograph of the temple, a photograph of the Chandra Maleshwara deity inside that little temple. And to the western side, as was the custom, when a king was going to perform a yajna, or on his behalf a yajna was going to be performed, he personally would go into the field where the yajna was going to take place, which was assigned by the brahmanas who were going to do the yajna, over there on the western side of this Chandra Maleshwara temple, to prepare the land. It's common. You know the examples. Janaka Maharaj, etc. So many examples. So as he was plowing the land, by accident, somehow a snake got caught in the plow and was instantly killed. Poor king. He was terrified that at the very, very beginning, even before the yajna happens, there was this very inauspicious evil omen. And he was really disturbed. I mean, the snake was disturbed too. But he was really disturbed. So what did he do? The yajna didn't proceed yet. He began performing austerities and prayed day and night to Lord Shiva and to Parashuram. Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva has a snake as one of his ornaments, Nagabhushana, and the snake was killed, so he was praying to Lord Shiva and Parashuram because he's the Lord of this area. Parashuram made his residence in this area. And you will hear more and more and more about how he made this his residence. So he's praying and praying and praying day and night. He's in big anxiety that the yajna that was to expand his kingdom was this evil event happened. So in response to his prayers, both Lord Shiva and Parashuram appeared to him in a dream and gave him an order a duet order, 3-part order. Build a silver pedestal. Here's how this silver pedestal or silver altar or silver plate came into being. It was ordered by Parshuram and Lord Shiva. At the very place where the sacrifice was to be performed, which was on the western side of the Chandra Muleshwara temple, put a silver pedestal right there. Next, construct 4 temples of snakes around Udupi. Temples of snakes. We'll hear some more tomorrow when we visit the temple of Parshuram. We'll hear some more. Temple of 4 directions. And donate your weight in gold. And a weighing instrument is called the tula. So that's how it got the tula name. So he did all of this quickly as he could. His weight in gold that was distributed to brahmanas and qualified persons. The silver plate, or the silver pedestal, the silver altar, right away, right at the center of what was to be the sacrificial area. Thus, the city of Udupi became also known as Rajata Pitapura. And because he donated his weight in gold, which by a balance is called the Tula, the land became known as Tulava. And the people were the Tulavas. So this whole, you'll see a map shortly. All of this Purushottam Kshetra, not Purushottam Kshetra, Parshuram Kshetra, or this is another one of the names, the Tulava region, where people speak Tulava. And so Lord Parshuram and Lord Shiva were very happy that he did exactly as he said, to become freed from the sin of having killed the snake. And they agreed to manifest themselves personified together as one entity and dwell there in spirit. And that's what this Ananteshwara deity and temple is. And we're going to hear many nice exchanges between this deity and Madhvacharya and Madhvacharya's father, and many devotees from this area. His very mystical deity. Here's another history. We're pausing so you can change gears. Another history related to this region is during the time of the Kurukshetra battle. This is fast forward in time a whole bunch. But during the time in Mahabharata, where peace talks were unsuccessful, it was now determined there will be a battle between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And so kings of different kingdoms are being approached to bring their armies and fight on this side or that side. So the Pandavas came to visit the king of Udupi, this whole area, and asked him, which side do you want to join? And he took a very nice position. He said, I don't want to join either side, but I'll feed both sides. So that was accepted. And this king of Udupi got the chance to directly serve Krishna, and the Pandavas especially. He said he served, but he's a king serving Krishna and Yudhishthira especially. He'd sit by the side of Yudhishthira and would serve both of them. So as the day, how many days the Kurukshetra battle took place? 18 days, right? So every day. How you get? How are you going to make a plan to cook for all the people that are here if you don't have people register? So we asked you to register so we know how many people to cook for. But how many people, how many soldiers were there at the Kurukshetra battle field? The king of Udupi would prepare just the right amount of prasadam every day for the survivors, meaning he knew how many soldiers would be killed. But he seemed to know how many soldiers would be killed. So one day, the Pandavas went into the kitchen and asked the cooks, how's it going here in the kitchen? How much food excess or shortage? And the cooks replied, no problem. The king of Udupi comes and tells us every day how many to cook for. He knows how many soldiers will be killed. He knows how many will be remaining. He tells us how many to cook for. The Pandavas were astonished. So they went to the king of Udupi and said, how do you know how many to cook for? Very interesting answer. He said, personally, I serve Krishna his meals, and I see how many peanuts come out of the pudding. I count those peanuts that he eats, and that way I know how many thousands of soldiers are going to die the next day. And I subtract the number of soldiers that are going to die, I know how to cook for. That was an interesting answer. How many peanuts he eats. So the Pandavas went to Krishna and said, you decide how many are supposed to die each day. Our fighting is only a show. So we'll hear more Mahabharata history connected with Udupi as we go further. So that's the history of Udupi, at least to some of degree, and now the history of Madhvacharya. And to get the history of Madhvacharya, his ancestors, in case you're from UP, his ancestors are from the UP. I was just sharing. I was presenting this before I came here in Naperville. Devaki Nandan Prabhu from Juhu, when he heard this, he said, oh, Madhvacharya is from Udupi. I said, yeah, but you're from Maharashtra. He said, yeah, but I was born in UP. Anyway, the ancestors of Madhvacharya were brahmanas that migrated to Tulu land or to Udupi. And here's the history. In Udupi, there was a brahmana from this Tulu region who went to Kanchi to do his higher studies. Kanchi at that time was a seat of higher learning. And he went to Kanchi with his guru and his grandfather, Veera Sharma, Mayura Sharma, together they went to Kanchi. However, the Pallavas made fun of him. Here's the map I promised you. Here's a map that shows the towns by name. And notice the one in the lower left. We're going to hear during this class something more about this particular place. Kasargod. Is that how you pronounce it? God? Kasargod. My apologies to the local people. I'm not a local person. We're going to hear something about the king of that place, Kasargod, and his chief priest or guru for that land, for that kingdom, became a disciple of Madhvacharya much later. But that's, the places, the different regions with their capitals, more or less. And all of these places were speaking the Tulu language, and thus Tulu Nad or Tulu Na. And they're centers of the Tulu culture. So he, Mayura Sharma, was from this area, and he went to Kanchi for his higher studies. But when he reached there, there was a Pallava guard who humiliated him. And it wasn't the right thing for a Brahmana to do, to get revengeful, but he got revengeful. And in a rage, he stopped his Brahminical studies and took up a sword to retaliate against the insult that he had received from a guard. And in course of time, he developed a little kingdom up there, a dynasty of Kadambas. And the kingdom and the dynasty later became known as Mayura Varma. And after his kingdom was established, he invited some sages to visit and sanctify by their presence, to sanctify his kingdom. However, they declined. And they declined because there weren't any brahmanas in the region sanctifying and purifying before the sages would come. So Mayura Sharma made the following wise decision. He went into UP. Here's the names of the places. Achitur, Ahichatur. Anyone want to help me with the pronunciation? That's good enough. Ahichatur. It's someplace in UP, not far from Bareilly. And he invited 32,000 Brahmins to come to his kingdom. That's the right thing to do. And he promised them many things, which he fulfilled. And he gave them all facilities, etc., so they could do their spiritual activities and their academic activities and all their activities. So they would feel very welcome and happy. 32,000 families. That's a lot. But he was a king. He had the resources. Unfortunately, his son, who was minor when he became the king, Kanga Varma, ascended the throne, but he wasn't really into being the king. He was just a young fellow. So he wasn't really interested in governing, and he wasn't interested in patronizing religion. And so after some time, it got to be chaos, meaning the ministers were vying for who was going to influence this young junior prince regent who wasn't really ready to be a king yet. And it got to be chaotic. And when it got to be chaotic, the Brahmins decided, let's leave. We're not being appreciated and not being cared for. So they completely went back to their home country. Chatra. Some time passed. The young boy grew up, and he, as he grew up, started taking charge of the state affairs, and he realized that the big mistake that was made, and so he went to the very same place that his father had gone, Chatra, to request him to come back. Reluctantly, but many of them came back to the Tulu land. Many in this Tulu land, just a part of the Tulu land is in Udupi, many of them settled in Udupi, which is part of Tulu land. They then eventually became known as Shivali Brahmins, for the same reasons as already mentioned. So in this area, the Shivali Brahmanas is a popular nomenclature for the Brahmanas of the area. Although they originally came from UP, they developed their own dialect of Kannada. At the same time, they maintained their traditions naturally, and in their tradition, accepted the Ananteshwara temple. We already heard that. And the Ananteshwara deity became the center of their spiritual community. And now the number of families reduced from 32,000 to 272 families, but it's still substantial. That's a lot of Brahmana families. And Madhvacharya's parents belonged to this community, the Shivali Brahmin community. Now, the Shivali Brahmana community had the Bhagavata Sampradaya. Bhagavata meaning Srimad Bhagavatam. They were Bhagavat Bhaktas, the devotees of the Supreme Lord Bhagavan. That was part of their official religion. However, as time passed, Shankaracharya came onto the scene. And because of his vigorous preaching and traveling all over the country, he made a strong impact here in Tululand, or Tuluna. And the Shivali Brahmanas became very much influenced. Now, he was from the area, more or less, and rather than going into all the details, we'll do that when we go to Sringeri Mutt. Here's a detail. If you don't remember this detail, it's quite okay. But according to the Madhvas, there's a Padma Purana version of Lord Shiva that's spread in personalism, and they give him a name, Mula Shankaracharya, who appeared much before the modern Shankaracharya, who is known as Adi Shankaracharya. And the former one is the one who wrote Bhaja Govindam, etc. The latter one is different person. Now that's the Madhva perspective. Not everyone agrees with the Madhva perspective, but it's just sharing. Here's the verse from Padma Purana. There's two Puranic references to Shankaracharya's appearance. Here's the Sanskrit. Notice the first line, Mayavadam Asat Shastram. The teaching of Shankaracharya is Asat Shastra. It's against Shastra. And the second, Prachanam Bodham Uchate. It's covered Buddhism, right from Padma Purana. Mayavad philosophy, this is Lord Shiva speaking to Parvati, is impious or asat shastra, covered Buddhism. Not just scholars said it, Padma Purana says it. My dear Parvati, in Kali Yuga I assumed the form of a brahmana and teach this imagined Mayavad philosophy. In order to cheat the atheist, I described the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be without form and without cause. This is Padma Purana, long before it happened. Similarly, in explaining Vedanta, I described the same Mayavad philosophy in order to mislead the entire population toward atheism by denying the personal form of the Lord. So the Shivali Brahmanas became influenced by Shankara. They weren't strong enough to resist it. Although they were from the Bhagavat Sampradaya, they became influenced. There's a lesson. Be very clear. Read Prabhupada's books and be very clear. What the scripture says So if you hear some non-scriptural sound vibration, you don't have to pay attention to it or be influenced by it, because history repeats itself. There's another reference, in the second Puranic reference is the Shiva Purana, and we see from the painting, there's Krishna instructing Lord Shiva, where Krishna says to Lord Shiva, in Kali Yuga, mislead the people in general by propounding imaginary meanings for the Vedas to bewilder them. Now why would Krishna want to do that? It's Kali Yuga. He's got a service to do, and he's giving a service to a capable person, Lord Shiva. So now back to Udupi. The Shivali Brahmanas seem to have adopted Shankaracharya's Advaita Vedanta. Not only his Advaita Vedanta, but his system of worship. What's that system of worship? The system of worship, we'll hear more as we go further, much more as we go further. But there's a system of worship, according to Shankara's teachings. The absolute truth is without qualities, nirguna. However, people that are weaker, they may need some saguna form to worship. So there's 5 forms you can worship. And you do any of those 5, but the goal is to go beyond the 5. You go beyond form to the formless, because the absolute truth is formless. So the Shivali Brahmanas adopted, at least some did, the kind of lifestyle and externally accepting, although internally they still maintained some Bhagavat Sampradaya practices, and in their heart of hearts, they also accepted Vishnu as supreme, but externally they were going along with what was conventional at the time. Any one of these forms is okay, etc. They maintained, the Shivali Brahmanas in Udupi maintained their sampradaya tendency, hearing and reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So that remained prevalent and strong throughout the community here in Udupi. However, someone from the same community named Hasta Malaka, you see these 4 sannyasis surrounding Shankaracharya, he was one of those 4. And he was entrusted with one of the principal Shankaracharya centers. There's 4 primary centers, north, south, east, and west. He took responsibility for this area. His mat was in Dwarka, and his mandate from Shankaracharya was to take Advaita doctrine and spread it in this Parashram Kshetra area, because he was from the area. It was a good fit. And so he did the best he could. And the Brahmanas of this area bought into it, at least externally, and they were under his influence, and from the Shankara Mat perspective, under his jurisdiction. Now, he, Hasta Malaka, it is said he established a deity that's even being worshipped today here in Udupi, this Venugopal. There's a photograph of the deity that is said, because they have Panchupashana. You can worship any one of these 5, and then when you get really good, you can go beyond the deity worship, and you become situated in Nirguna Brahman. Those who accepted Shankara's teachings took sannyas, and their sannyas title was one of these 2, traditionally Tirtha or ashrama. Just a sannyas title, that's all. Ekadanda sannyas. Nice photograph of the outside of a temple. Later, the caretakers of that deity that he established, he couldn't maintain it, and so it was turned over to Madhvacharya. And the Sri Krishna Mat in Madhva's line now looks after that deity. Now, in this area, the Udupi area, there was an Ananta Mat that the Shivali brahmanas looked after, and they followed the Smarta, Panchana, Yatana practice. And Madhvacharya's sannyas guru was one of, in that line. Achyuta Preksha was his sannyas guru. And he was from the Shivali Brahmin community, and he, to some degree, had bought into Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita teachings. And he's the person, I'll say it again, Achyuta Preksha was the last head of this Ananta Mat, and Madhvacharya took sannyas diksha from him. And he eventually helped his sannyas guru become a Vaishnava. And today that is that Ananta Mat, that was a Shivali Brahmana Mat, became Sri Krishna Mat, where the Krishna deity is now worshipped. Okay. We've been going for 1 hour. And we have probably another 45 minutes. So, get used to it, Prabhus. Lots of hearing. There's this book called Mani Manjari. Mani Manjari is the title of a book. And the book was written by Narayana Panditacharya. And this book, Mani Manjari, and it has a sequel, part 2, says a lot of what you're going to hear is from that book. And we're going to hear now a little bit about who is Narayana Panditacharya. And his elder brother, his father was Trivikrama Acharya. So notice there's a book stand, and looks like there's smoke coming out of the book. That's a signal to me that I'm going to have to read something from a document. That's a little graphic that cues me to prepare you to hear something. So, Trivikrama Acharya, or Panditacharya, was one of 2 sons. He was the elder of 2 sons, and his younger brother became a disciple of Madhvacharya long before his older brother Trivikrama Acharya did. Trivikrama Acharya was the guru of the king of that region I mentioned to you before, that furthest south region. He knows the name of the place. You saw it in the map. Yeah, I can't hear you. Give him a microphone. You saw the place. So Trivikrama Acharya, the history of the time, the kingdom was the kingdom of
Kasargod.
Okay. During this period of time, in all of India, in the western region, Trivikrama Acharya was the most respected senior scholarly personality. Not only he was just the guru of the king of that area, of all the whole section, southwestern section of India, he was recognized as the most advanced learned person. And there's another person on the eastern side of India who also became a disciple of Madhvacharya. We'll hear about him shortly. So these two brothers, they were the sons of a learned brahmana. The brahmana's name was Subramanya Suri. The younger brother's name was Shankara Bhatta. Bhatta is the title, meaning he was very learned. Shankara Bhatta became very attracted to Madhvacharya's teaching, to become his disciple. So much connected. We'll hear more and more as we go along in hearing about Madhvacharya. He was like his shadow. He was always with him. Very dear, very connected, in service mood, constantly with him. So much trusted was Shankara Bhatta that Madhvacharya had him take care of Madhvacharya was known to have a vast library, and many of his very rare books were entrusted to Shankara Bhatta, and his own writings were entrusted to Shankara Bhatta. He was a very confidential servant of Madhvacharya. Because of that connection, his elder brother, Trivikrama Acharya, had the opportunity to become familiar with Madhvacharya's teachings. So although he was in this very elevated position, not only was he a guru of a king, but he wrote a well-known literature for which he was famous called Usha Harana. The category of literature was called the Mahakavya. It's a very poetic writing and exposition on spiritual knowledge. So he is a luminary in his own right. However, Trivikrama Acharya was troubled by the doctrines, particularly Shankara's doctrine, but other doctrines that were prevalent at the time, and their innumerable discrepancies. And he was very disturbed by seeing those discrepancies. So he was, the door was open for him to meet Madhvacharya. And specifically in this biography about him, about Madhvacharya, that you see on the screen over here, written by his son, Narayana Panditacharya. His father wanted very much to get to the conclusive truths of what is known as a technical term, but it's nice to learn some technical terms. Prasthana Trayi. Some of you may have heard that term. I've heard that term multiple times. Prasthana Trayi. Trayi means three. So there's Nyaya Prasthan. Prabhupada writes about this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you want the reference, it's Adi Leela, chapter 7, 106. Adi Leela, chapter 7, 106. Trayi Prasthan. So there's Nyaya, that's Vedanta Sutra, Nyaya Prasthan. Shruti Prasthan, the Upanishads. And Smriti Prasthan, like Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita, etc. So Trivikrama Acharya, wanted the opportunity to have extensive, in-depth discussion on those three, so he could know without a doubt what's the conclusive truth of reality, the absolute truth, conclusively, on these three primary references: Nyaya, Shruti,
and Smriti. An arrangement was made. We'll hear more about this later. Arrangement was made for him to meet Madhvacharya. For 15 days, they had a discussion on those 3 scriptures, on conclusive truths that are to be understood from those 3 scriptures. At the end of the 15th day, he had nothing further to say. He surrendered to Madhvacharya, this luminary that was the most respected scholar of his time in that area, southwest India. And he carefully studied further under Madhvacharya's teachings, his teachings. He was bold enough to make a request. Your writings are very terse. They're very short and succinct and to the point, yes, but ordinary people aren't going to understand. Can you write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra that's more expanded, please? Because of Trivikrama Acharya's request, Madhvacharya did that. And he wrote what became well known in Madhva's line as Anu Vyakyayana. Anu Vyakyana. Anu Vyakyana. Yes?
Anu Vyakyayana.
Vyakyayana. Okay. Diacritics aren't here. So that what was that? It's Madhva's response to Trivikrama Acharya's request, a more comprehensive rendering of Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra has 555 verses. In 900 verses, he explained it more thoroughly. Much later, we're going to hear further as we go along, but in the line of disciplic succession, Jayatirtha wrote a commentary on that expanded version. And then there's commentators that wrote commentaries on Jayatirtha's commentary. It's a foundational rendering of Brahma Sutra. And that was at Trivikrama Acharya's request. Trivikrama Acharya wrote his own commentary on the on Madhvacharya's Bhashya. Bhashya means commentary on Brahma Sutra. He is so intimate in his dealings. This is a very nice story. We'll hear more, but when one day Madhvacharya was going to take his bath in the sea, and a certain mood was welling up in his heart that he was going to meet Krishna. And because he was who he is, he started in his mind composing some stotras, glorifying Krishna, anticipating meeting Krishna. That's the day that he received the Udupi Krishna deity, etc. When he returned and installed the Udupi Krishna, it became a daily practice. He would personally worship the deity of Krishna, and while he was worshiping the deity of Krishna, those stotras that he recited in honor of looking forward to meet and receive Krishna, or were recited when he's inside the temple room or inside the altar worshiping the deity. So one fine day, the brahmanas who recited those prayers were finished, and the deity door didn't open. And a lot of time passed. And the brahmanas became a concern. Maybe something happened. Maybe he had a medical problem or who knows what. So they wanted to know what to do. Being the senior-most person, Trivikrama Acharya boldly opened the deity door to see if he was all right. And what did he see? Much to his surprise, he saw Hanuman worshipping Ram, he saw Bhima worshipping Krishna, and he saw Madhvacharya worshipping Vyasadeva. What a sight. And in the course of the rest of his life, Trivikrama Acharya had much association, as did his younger brother, Shankaracharya, and then Trivikrama Acharya had a son whose name was Narayana Panditacharya, and together Narayana Panditacharya and Trivikrama Acharya had lots of first-hand association. It's something like in Gaura Leela, the two that had constant association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Roy and his associates, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, had so much direct understanding and experience. So Narayana Panditacharya wrote this book. And the first half of the book, the first part of the book is describing Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra and the prelude to Madhvacharya's appearance. And the second book is called Madhva Vijaya, was what happened after that. So these two books, to this day, there's a Gurukula in Udupi. Young Brahmin boys go to Gurukula, many of them. And there's three things that they study for all Gurukul kids. They study Bhagavad Gita from Madhvacharya's rendering of Bhagavad Gita, and they study these two books, Mani, Manjari, and Madhva Vijaya. They're very much rooted. It's kind of like having as a curriculum in ISKCON that you read Your Ever Well Wisher, or something to do with Prabhupada. The biographies about Prabhupada, standard literature for kids in ISKCON. So standard literature. This book that we're referring to as we go forward, all Gurukul kids know it, at least the ones from Udupi. Then there's a section that comes at the beginning of this Mani Manjari that is the prelude to Madhvacharya's appearance. Here's how the prelude goes. After the Mahabharata war, there's some persons that win and some persons that lost. And those that lost, they realized they couldn't defeat Krishna. And of course, reference is made to Bhima saying, because Bhima saying, you must all know this. If you don't, I'll just say it slowly and you'll hear it at least 50 times more. Madhvacharya is a manifestation of Vayu. Who was the father of Hanuman? Vayu. Who was the father of Bhima? Vayu. And Madhvacharya didn't have a father, but he is an incarnation of Vayu. So these three personalities, Hanuman, Bhima, and Vayu, are connected. Hanuman, oh yes. After Trivikrama Acharya saw what he saw on the altar, he wrote a book. And the book, Vayu Stotras or something like that. And after he wrote it, so it's about Vayu, about Hanuman, about Bhima, and Madhvacharya. Glorifying Madhvacharya as having that connection. He showed the book to Madhvacharya for his approval. Madhvacharya said it's not appropriate. Here's what he said. You have to have in the beginning and in the end some prayers glorifying the clause of Lord Nrsingadev. And once those were put in, beginning and end, he approved it. Clause of Lord Nrsingadev. So in the beginning of this book, Mani Manjari book by Narayana Panditacharya, that's very authoritative, there's this commotion that by the people who were opposed to Krishna and Bhima, what to do, how to retaliate, because that's what demons want to do. With demoniac mentality in their mind, with even more hatred than they had prior to the Kurukshetra battle, they wanted to do something that would hurt Bhima and Krishna. Their plan was to mess up an understanding of the Vedas, and people get misunderstanding of the Vedas because the Vedas lead one to Krishna. This is in the beginning of this book. And so, one such person's Mani Manta. Who is Mani Manta? Mani Manta is a demon who Bhima killed because one time Bhima went to the Gandhamadana mountain to get a flower for Draupadi. In the course of his going to the Gandhamadana, searching for this super fragrant special flower, he came across Mani Manta, and Bhima killed him. So Mani Manta is one of the leading I want to get back persons in his next life. And he, Mani Manta, was a leading personality to inspire others to want to get back specifically get back at Krishna and Bhima. And here's another fellow mentioned in this Mani Manjari book. His name is Shakuni. You know who Shakuni is? He's the one that did the dice game, etc. He is a diabolical fellow. And these diabolical fellows got together and had a diabolical fellow conference. And they decided they wanted to destroy the Vedic knowledge, and that's the way of getting back at Krishna. So they made the following plan. There's Krishna and there's Bhima. I cannot defeat either Bhimasen or Krishna. For all devotees, Krishna is God, Bhima is a spiritual master, while Draupadi is the patron deity of all Vedas and sacred scriptures. Now, this is a Madhva follower perspective, but that's their perspective, so that's what the book says. I'm just repeating what the thing. Draupadi was the wife. Bhima was son of Vayu, so they have special position in the hierarchy of personalities from Madhva line. If this knowledge is destroyed in the minds of devotees, then Krishna and others will be in distress. This is how we can take revenge on them. Therefore, some of us should take birth on earth and enter the minds of scholars or commentators on the Vedas. Let the Vedas be destroyed by wrong interpretations. This is the beginning of Mani Manjari, biography of Madhvacharya, the prelude before his appearance. Let the right knowledge of the Vedas be distracted by interpreting the scriptures illogically, resulting in many schools of thought, confusing the valid knowledge. As our aim is to play Krishna and Bhimasen, we need not worry about atheists, as they were not accepted by theists anyways. So here's 3 pillars of those misleading teachings. 1, this doctrine so-called Sat Asat Vilakshana. What Sat Asat Vilakshana means? It's a special state, it's neither real or unreal, but it's different. What's that? It's word jugglery. Nirguna, the Supreme Being, is without any attributes. And there's no difference between the Supreme Being and the souls. Whew. Pillars. This is at the beginning of the Mani Manjari biography of Madhvacharya. Even the good people of the world were gradually misled and started accepting that Vasudev, the Supreme Being, was the embodiment of infinite auspicious qualities like bliss, is without such qualities. So as that was going on, according to this biography, Mani Manjari, the devatas were disturbed. The devatas approached Brahma, and the Brahma led the devatas to Lord Narayana. Oh, Narayana, so there's the painting. There's Narayana or Lord Vishnu riding on the back of Garuda, and the demigods are petitioning, Narayana, please do something. So Narayana went to Vayu and made a request to Vayu. This is a job for you. This is taken directly from the biography. O fair-faced one, the good people of the world, fit for moksha, and devoted to me, are suffering sorrow due to their being unable to choose the right path shown by Vedanta, by their own efforts. So basically, go and clean up the mess, please. And so the mandate was given to Vayu, and then under the order of Narayana, Vayu said yes. That's the background. In the beginning of this book, towards the beginning of the second book, called Madhva Vijaya, it gives a nice description of the glories of Madhvacharya. That was the background for his appearance. And here's color-coded. You're going to see these words. Akila, Karanaya. He's the originator of this world. And he's Mukhya Pran. That's another name of Vayu, is Mukhya Pran. And he's the embodiment of countless auspicious qualities. Now, this is, I offer my obeisances to Narayana. This is glorification of Narayana. Taken, as you can see on the bottom right, taken directly from this book, from Narayana Panditacharya. After offering obeisances to Lord Narayana, the author then pays obeisances to Vyas. And here's his glorification of Vyas. Because Vyas was the teacher, or Acharya, in disciplic succession before Madhva. We'll hear about that in detail. So Vyas is the one who is dear to the Pandavas. In this book, Bhima in particular, and the Pandavas, and the one who protected the Vedas from distortions in their interpretation by compiling the Vedic scriptures and elaborating on it, just as Sri Krishna protected the cowherds of Gokula from danger, honoring Vyas. Then spotlight goes to Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya's fame illumines the three lokas, both inside and outside. It dispels even the internal darkness of the minds of the souls. Therefore, it is superior to the effulgence of the sun, who provides only external illumination. They're praying to Madhvacharya, please illumine us from within. Now, in their teachings, in the Madhva line of teachings, there's a hierarchy of jivas. And the top of all jivas are the demigods. And the top of the demigods are two, Brahma and Vayu. They're called Jivotama, Jiva Uttama, the topmost jivas. So we'll go into this some more, but it's already getting to be a little bit late, so I won't go into it. But Vayu and Brahma, because Madhva is in the Brahma Sampradaya, so Brahma is with high regard, and Vayu is with high regard, because he is the demigod who Lord Narayan requested to deal with this Kali Yuga mess of misinterpreting and twisting the meaning of the Vedas. He's authorized and empowered to do the job. And he's the topmost Jiva, Jivottama. And we're almost done. So, this is what's going on in the upper realm, in the Deva realm. Now, down here on the earth, here in amongst the Shivali brahmanas and other people that lived in India at the time, they're very much eager for some relief from this twisting of the meanings of the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra. Please help us, please help us. As the Devas prayed, the people are praying. Right at this time, here's the Ananteshwara temple from the outside. And there was a huge festival going on at the time of Makara Sankranti. And thousands and thousands of devotees came to participate in Makara Sankranti auspicious festival. Lo and behold, just at that time, somebody, a dull-looking man, appearing to be possessed, climbed the flag pillar at the entrance of the temple and started dancing and shouting in a deranged manner. Now, how do you dance on a flagpole? I don't know. But that's what he was doing. And he got everybody's attention. He didn't have an amplification system like we have here in this room, but he was loud enough everyone could hear what he said. And here's what he said. He announced he was empowered by Lord Ananteshwara to give the following message to all the people of Udupi. Good news, everybody. Mukhya Pran, an incarnation of Lord Vayu, will appear here in Udupi in a very short time to smash all impersonalist philosophies. Not the impersonalists, their philosophy. Big difference. And reestablish loving service in full attributes to the personal form of Lord Vishnu. Devotees will have all these qualities. No longer will any soft-hearted devotee have to hear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead be subject to criticism and mundane views of being deaf, dumb, lifeless, limbless, formless, who is covered by illusion, by Pashandi heretics. So this is all within this text. Everybody heard it. They were praying. They're very happy. And one of the very special happy people was Madhvacharya's mother and father. Madhyageha was his name. We'll hear some more about all of that. He felt relieved. Times are going to change because Lord Vayu is going to appear somewhere here in Udupi. He didn't know he was going to be the father. And that person was the prelude to the appearance of Madhvacharya. Srila Prabhupada ki. So that's a little background on why we're here, the history of Udupi, and Lord Parshuram and the deity, Ananteshwara deity, and the circumstance of the time and why it was what it was, at least from the Madhva followers' perspective. And the good news, Lord Vayu is going to appear and set things straight. It's now 7 o'clock. We've gone for an hour and a half, and I think we can take a little bit of time for some discussion. Is the viewing of the screen good? Good. Good. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah,
Oh, there you are.
Trivikrama Acharia. It's a very inspiring to see that Trivikrama Acharyas have put uh, the probable to understand the deviations much at the beginning of their writings, and what is that they are dealing. They are very clear. You said at the beginning it's a very effortless to be distracted. So these people, they identified the distractions or what is that they are dealing. Now coming to the question part, while preaching, the preachers how to identify these deviations much before. Is it helpful, or a bit we don't have to concern about, but see the positive side much, how to deal the preacher?
I got everything except the last sentence, and the last sentence is your question. So could you say it again, the question?
My question is, as preachers, identifying the deviations or possible deviations, is it important?
Identifying the deviation?
Deviation. Yeah.
You want me to identify the deviation?
Is it much important, like the way Trivikrama Pandit Acharyas actually understood what they are dealing?
I'm not sure what you're asking. Are you asking me to repeat what's the deviation that we as a preacher should be aware of so we can address it?
Yeah, how to be aware of such things as preachers.
There's the how to and there's the what. You want the what or the how to?
Both, Maharaj.
Oh, I thought so. Well, the what was there were 3 points. Remember what those 3 points were? Do you remember what those 3 points were? Let's do the last one. The supreme and the living entity are not absolutely non-different.
Yes.
That's one.
Yeah.
And then this thing that says it's neither real or not real. It's neither either one of those. Nirvachaniya. You can't say it because it's neither this nor that. That's another one. Right? Should I go back to that slide?
Yes.
Let's see. This is the wrong way to do it. That was that election. That's one of them. The Supreme has no qualities, and there's no distinction between the Supreme and the and the souls. There's no difference at all. Absolutely one. That's the what. If you want to know what the deviations are, there's unlimited varieties and variations on the theme of, but these are foundational.
So you mean these deviations will spill over into the preaching field and dealings with other
They
devotees?
steal bhakti.
Okay.
There's no bhakti.
Okay.
You won't find bhakti.
Okay.
So you want to know how to, as preachers, how to deal with this. Chant, dance, and take prasadam. Because there has to be some purification that comes from chanting and prasadam. Otherwise, discussion isn't going to go very far. Tarka apratishta. It's unstable. And people won't be able to understand it anyways. So some purification. And I would say, in addition to chanting and dancing, is experiencing a joy that's different than a material joy. The dancing is an essential part of Mahaprabhu's process. And so those, and good character. Achar is many times more compelling than prachar. If your character is good, your speaking may not be so expert, but your character is more compelling than speaking expert with bad character. Expertly with bad character. So it's the how to is have good character. Be that which our teachings say as much as you can. So that requires purity. Purity is the force. So those are some simple how-tos. Become very familiar with our core devotional texts, starting with Bhagavad Gita, but the other core devotional texts, and don't have a club in your hand, or hit people with the club that's in your hand. But be that which our teachings are, and present the teachings in a reasonable and respectful manner. And if people don't want to hear, then they won't want to hear. They won't hear it anyways if they don't want to hear. But so help prepare people to want to hear by your good character and good conduct. And nice prasadam. And encourage them to chant. So there's some purification. So that's preparing the field so then when they hear something that's coming from a person of good character and good quality, they go, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Yes, and be patient. Like sprouting a seed, you be patient. Within that seed, there's the potential of a tree. You have to be patient. That's how to. If there's another question? Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Udupi king understood the indication of Lord Krishna. So what was his relation with Krishna? So he understood by peanuts, number of peanuts. So how much quantity he would cook.
Could you relay what he's saying? You got what he's saying? Just stand up and tell me.
What was the relationship of the king of Udupi during the Mahabharata war time that with Krishna, that he could understand Krishna eats peanuts and that signifies so many.
You have to ask the king. Where does intelligence come from? So
Super.
that's how. And he got the intelligence from the one who gives intelligence. And that's his relationship was a relationship of service. And so he got the intelligence that way, through the medium of service. Super soul instructed him. Krishna didn't, we have no indication. Krishna pulled him to the side and said, count how many peanuts, and by that you can know how many thousands are going to die tomorrow. Super soul, the giver of intelligence. And so he has a devotee of Krishna capacity, and according to his service, Krishna may give some intelligence to someone and not for someone else. The Pandavas, not that the Pandavas weren't devotees, but he was a devotee with a particular service, and he was keen on knowing, so Super Soul gave the means to know.
Comment, Maharaj. Ramabhoja king, he followed the instructions of Lord Shiva and Parashurama as it is.
Yes.
And they pleased very much. So that part is very much inspiring. The way Ramabhoja followed very precisely and
Yes.
And as a result, we are all got, Udupi, Dham, and then Madhvacharya, all those things. So, thank you, Maharaj.
You're appreciating the nice king.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, well, that's our, he's a role model for us. He's a role model for us. And he was put in an awkward, painful situation for devotees to follow. We'll hear, Ananteshwara was very intimate with the Vaishnavas of this place over centuries. Very confidential. We'll hear. The deity picked up Madhvacharya when he accepted sannyas and held him in his arms. Very personal. So he had an opportunity to facilitate the manifesting of that deity by some very awkward situation. Very instructive. Anyone else? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Speak slowly and clearly.
The screen, the slide which I'm seeing on the screen,
Yes.
it says the scholar whose minds are polluted propagates the doctrines. Second point and third point is actually given by Shankaracharya.
Yes.
So, should I understand that his mind was polluted?
Well, he was presenting that which will pollute the minds of people. He was instructed to do so, and he did so. Very expertly. And very effectively.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, looks like that's it. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Some announcements? You want to announce